Hi, Sydney here. This is my reading log for April of 2023. I'm going to be starting off with series that I acquired in April and that I also read in April. So I'm going to start with Seven Seas because Seven Seas usually has the most releases for me. First off is Seven Seas. I have, firstly, My Girlfriend's Child, Volume 1. This is a series about a young high school couple where the girl realizes that she might be pregnant, and the couple have to come to terms with that and learn and adapt to the situation. It's a drama series. I don't believe it's finished yet, but it is a really good shoujo. Recommended to it by some people on YouTube. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next few volumes. Secondly, we have Cinderella Closet. This is a shoujo series. I believe it's completed in Japan. It's the first volume. It's a series about a girl discovering her self-worth and her confidence through another girl who teaches her about makeup and how to better present herself. I really enjoyed it. It's not going to be terribly long, and I definitely recommend it to some people who are interested in makeup or just interested in nice relationships between people. Kind of similar to Princess Jellyfish in a way, but I've only read a first volume of that one. Next up, we have Crossplay Love Otaku X Punk, and this is volume 4. This is a great little romantic comedy about two people. These aren't them on the cover, these are other characters. I think this is actually one of the main characters here. Basically, through circumstances, they both end up cross-dressing at a cafe and both fall in love with each other, but it's the cross-dressing versions of each other they fall in love with. So they were both men who dress as women for certain purposes. I was kind of slow on to start with this one, even though I do like a lot of gay stuff. It was just kind of not grabbing my attention a lot, but I starting to enjoy it more with this volume. I think the first volume and the fourth volume were really good. The second and third I kind of stumbled through a little bit, but hoping it gets better from here. Next up, we have Momo the Blood Taker, Volume 4. This is a vampire series. I don't want to go into too many details without spoiling the happenings in Volume 1, but I enjoyed the fourth volume. I'm kind of iffy on this series as well. The covers are beautiful, but it's also kind of got that weird vibe that a lot of vampire series do, where it's a female vampire and a male human, and the female vampire looks a little young, but if you can move past that, I think this is a good series and it's worth giving a read. I think it's only 9 volumes and finished in Japan. Next up, we have No Longer Allowed in Another World, Volume 2. This is basically a series about the author, I think Osamu Dazai. It's a parody of Osamu Dazai from No Longer Human, which is a series chronicling an author's struggles with the final days of his life. But this is a very lighthearted, poking fun at that character and how he would fare in an isekai. It's really good. I'm liking it more and more from the second volume onwards. Second volume did introduce a really interesting plot happenstance that changed what's going to be happening in the series, because initially it seemed like it was just going to be a standard isekai, but he's learned about some powers he has that are very unique to him and is going to provide a lot of interesting things to happen in further volumes. Next up, we have the first volume debut of Eccentric Doctor of the Moonflower Kingdom. This is a Imperial Court series. I don't remember too many details about what kind of vibe it has. I do remember that she is a doctor and she's helping this very important person in the court with medicine, and it's lighthearted and humorous. It's just been a while since I've read, so I don't remember too many specific details about it, other than that the main girl is very, very interested in muscles to a comedic effect. I liked it a lot, but it's been a while, so I don't remember a lot of the finer details. Next up, we have J.K. Haru is a Sex Worker in Another World, Volume 5. This, I believe, is wrapping up in a couple volumes. It is an isekai series about a young girl who is transported into another world with one of her classmates, and he gains a very great power, and she gains a very mediocre power. So she basically has to live her life in this new world where women are treated like dirt, and she becomes, as the title implies, a sex worker. And it's about her struggles with it and about how she's coming to terms with this new world. It's humorous, but it's also got a lot of dark elements to it. It's really good. It's a nice feminist take on some isekai tropes. I would definitely recommend the series, especially since it's not terribly long. Next up, we have His Majesty, the Demon King's Housekeeper, Volume 3. This is a series about a young girl who obsessively cleans and loves cleaning, getting isekai to another world with the Demon King here, who is basically, his domain is cursed to be forever filthy, forever covered in, I believe it's a soot or a dust that covers everything, and she is teaching all of the inhabitants of that world to learn how to clean without needing cleaning magic, because they were also blocked from using cleaning magic. This volume introduced a certain character that is very pivotal for what happened at the setup of this series. I really liked it. I've been enjoying this series a lot so far. It seems like it's going under the radar by a lot of people. I don't see a lot of people loving it or talking about it, but I would recommend it wholeheartedly. Next up, we have Though I Am an Inept Villainess, Volume 2. I'm not going to be saying that whole title. This is an adaptation of a light novel where essentially the most favored girl in the imperial court, who is very sickly, and the villainess, who is hated by most members of the court because of her terrible behavior, switch bodies. So the villainess is in the heroine's body and the heroine's in the villainess's body. And we mostly follow the heroine as she is in the villainess's body, trying to basically redeem the villainess's actions. Because she's kind deep down, the heroine is. And she's living out the life she's always wanted to live now that she's not trapped in a very sickly body anymore. We do see the two interacting more in this volume, which I did enjoy. I want to give it a few more volumes, see how it goes. The first volume was all right. The second volume was getting a bit better, but the main character, the heroine that ended up in the villainess's body, doesn't seem to have any real character flaws aside from the fact that she was sickly, which doesn't really seem like a character flaw. So it does feel like a bit of a, I don't want to use the term too much, but Mary Sue sort of character, and I'm hoping that we get to see more of her flaws as the series goes on. Next up, we have Barbarities, Volume 2. I am covering up the images of the half-naked man on the cover. This is a BL series set in kind of an equivalent of a medieval, not medieval, but Europe back when there were castles and lords and that sort of thing. Essentially, the main character is a very, very flirty, I think he's bisexual man, and he is chasing after this lord who is assigned to protect and watch over. So it's basically him getting involved in political drama, but also him trying to get involved with the lord that he's watching over. I think it's only 4 volumes. The second volume introduced a lot more political drama that I don't really want to go into too much detail on, especially because I can't remember all the finer bits and pieces of it. It's very enjoyable. The art is wonderful. I would recommend it since it's only 4 volumes, but it's very heavy with political drama if that's not your sort of thing. So next up, we have The Titan's Bride, Volume 3. This is a series, a very 18-plus series that basically involves this boy who's transported into another world to become this Titan's bride. Whenever the Titan asked for a person to be isekai'd into this world, he didn't specify a gender, just someone who needed him. Someone who needed, I can't remember exactly what he said. I think it said someone who was struggling. So this volume actually shows the hero trying to get back to his own world with the Titan's blessing, but something happens that makes it so the hero needs to come back to the world of the Titan, and we see how their relationship develops from there. I don't want to go into too many more details because it's actually decently plot heavy, but size difference is the main thing to keep in mind here. If you like size difference BL and you are 18 plus, 18 plus, for Pete's sake, please be 18 plus. This is extremely explicit. I would recommend this. It's not the most serious thing in the world, but it's a good read. So lastly, from the Seven Seas pile, we have Girl from the Other Side, Volume 3. This covers volumes 7 through 9 of the 11-volume Girl from the Other Side series in this wonderful hardcover, beautifully embellished book. And I love the series so far. It's almost finished. The ending was a cliffhanger for this set of volumes, and I'm really anticipating the next hardcover volume to finish off the series, but it's basically a world with these shadow people and these light people, and essentially the shadow people, from what the common knowledge is, the shadow people infect the light people and turn them into these monsters. So the shadow people are kind of separated off into their own world, and it's completely segregated from the light people. And there's this one girl who ends up going to where the shadow people are. You have to forgive, I don't remember the exact terms. Because it's discovered that she might not be affected by the darkness and might not transform. So we're basically following as she's trying to get taken back to the Light Kingdom to be used in some sort of ritual to save everybody, but we're also trying to follow her and this creature right here, who is kind of a mentor or a teacher to her, as he watches over her and tries to protect her from the outside world. Now, that is everything from the Seven Seas pile. Next up, I'm going to be doing the Shonen Jump / Viz pile. We're going to be starting off with volume 24 of Komi Can't Communicate, the only Shonen Sunday release that I got and read in April. This is a rom-com series about a young girl who struggles to communicate and a young boy who helps her gain communication skills and helps her with her goal to make 100 friends. It's a long-running series. It's shonen. It's very beloved. It's probably my second or third favorite manga of all time. I think there's a lot of great things about it. I don't remember exactly what happened in this latest volume, unfortunately. I kind of swim through these as soon as they come out. The previous volume had a very strong plot development, but this volume is just kind of going over White Day in Japan. I don't remember too many other details about it, but I still love this series to death. Next up, we have the debut volume of Tista, which is a 2-volume series by Tatsuya Endo, the creator of Spy Family. And Tista is basically the story of a young girl leading a dual life as the Grim Reaper of New York City. She basically is trying to be a sort of a vigilante and taking out all of these villains. I don't remember too much of the details about this series. I do remember I liked it a lot. It's essentially, she's supposed to be heartless, but develops feelings for a young man that she messes up one of her missions trying to save. It's only 2 volumes. I think it's a good read so far. I'm not sure if it's 2 volumes because it got canceled or what, but if you like Spy Family, you're probably going to like this. It kind of has a darker vibe than Spy Family for sure, but you can kind of tell they're by the same person. Next up, we have Tatsuki Fujimoto's Before Chainsaw Man 22 to 26. This is all the short stories he released from the ages of 22 to 26. I was not a huge fan of the last short stories collection, but everything in this short stories collection I think was great. It definitely lives up to the hype of some of his other works and kind of builds up to how good he's become at writing characters and how good he's become at manga in general. There's just a lot of short stories in this one, not too much for me to talk over without spoiling anything. Next up, we have the final volume of Hunter's Guild Red Hood, which is volume 3. This is a series that got canceled after 3 volumes in Shonen Jump, but with enough demand, it got brought over to the US. I really liked the first volume, and the second volume did introduce some meta elements I wasn't a huge fan of, and then the third volume goes heavy into the meta elements that kind of make the plot very confusing to wrap my head around. I do feel like it would have been better if it had more time to breathe and didn't have to introduce all of these elements that kind of got shoved in at the last minute. But, I mean, I'm definitely going to pick up anything else this author does in the future. They worked on My Hero Academia with Horikoshi, and I think they're a good author. It's just, unfortunately, their work wasn't extremely well received. Next up, we have Mission Yozakura Family, Volume 4. This is a series my partner's picking up, but I'm also reading. It is a series about a young boy who marries into this family of assassins, and he is learning to be an assassin himself and adapting to that world. It's a kind of a gag comedy action series, and in this volume, with this volume, we introduce a sort of stalker character. It's a lot of kind of small plot beats that are run through quickly. Not a lot of super intricate plot with this one, not a lot to go over. It's good, it's a gag comedy, but I would recommend probably reading a bit on the app, the Shonen Jump app, to see if you actually like it before picking up the series. Next we have Shoha Shoten, Volume 2. This is by the artist of Death Note, Bakuman, etc. It is a series about 2 boys trying to break into the world of Rakugo comedy, which is kind of like a stand-up comedy sort of thing in Japan, without going into too many details about it. This volume covers the after event of a high school comedy show that they competed in. Brings in a bunch of high school teams from around Japan to compete in a short comedy show where, I'm not going to spoil how they placed, but it's following the events of that and them trying to move on to a bigger competition to try and hone their craft, and also working with one of their classmates to become better at what they do and learning their flaws. It's good so far. It comes out very, very slowly, though. Next, we have Sakamoto Days, Volume 7. This volume was good. I'm moderately enjoying Sakamoto Days. This specific volume goes over... I don't remember this specific volume goes over. Without going into much spoilers about this volume, it does have a lot of fights in it with people who are going after the JAA. I do enjoy it moderately so far. I'm not as into it as a lot of other people are. I was at the beginning, but I've kind of fallen off as the series has gone on. Hopefully it catches my interest again. Next up, we have Blue Box Volume 4. This is a shonen romance comedy about 2 school students, both in separate clubs, one of them being a badminton player and the other one being a basketball player. The girl here is the basketball player. She's extremely good at her sport and tries very hard. The main boy is a badminton character that isn't as good, but is starting to try harder because he wants to earn the affections of her. In this volume, he's made a goal for himself that he has to win a event in order to continue pursuing her. But after the event, he kind of pushes himself a bit too hard. This volume does cover him and another girl going to the fireworks festival. There's a third girl involved. She's a rhythm gymnastics member. It kind of seems like it's introducing a love triangle, which is a bit iffy, but I'm interested to see how it plays out, because she's going to the festival with her friends, and he's going to the festival with the girl on the rhythm gymnastics team. And this is a really good shonen romance. I'd recommend it wholeheartedly. Next up, we have Dandadan, Volume 3. And this is a very wacky series about a boy who believes in ghosts, but a boy who believes in the supernatural, but not ghosts, and a girl who believes in ghosts, but not the supernatural. And to kind of spoil the events of the first volume, the boy ends up getting possessed, and the girl realizes she has powers to help him with his possession. And it's a very wacky, weird series. It's a little hard to explain in detail, but this latest volume does involve this very interesting enemy here. Um, so he has essentially, the main character has lost his family jewels, so he's trying to seek them out, and it's a very sad first few chapters after a big fight in the previous volume where he recovers one of his family jewels. This is a great series, though, very wacky. Next up, we have My Hero Academia, Volume 34. This introduces Star and Stripe, I believe is her name. I can't really go into too much detail without spoiling the anime, but I wasn't a huge fan of this volume. I do feel like they're kind of milking the villain they're currently fighting a little too much, and I'm kind of wanting it to get to a conclusionary point. I don't like a lot of the plot developments in this volume, except for one twist at the end, but yeah, it's My Hero Academia. Most people are going to end up reading it anyways. Next up, we have Rainbow Days 3. This is just a slice-of-life shoujo comedy about 4 boys in high school who are experiencing high school life together. This volume covers the group of boys trying to work with one of their friends on completing a manga. This is an alright shoujo series. It's 17 volumes, I believe, completed, so it's a bit of a commitment. I'm not sure if I'd recommend it wholeheartedly. I enjoy it moderately. It's not my favorite, though. Next up is My Love Mix-Up, Volume 7. This is a series about a boy who accidentally confesses his feelings to a girl. He accidentally, in trying to prevent a girl from confessing her feelings to a boy, accidentally confesses his feelings to that boy, but he doesn't. It's a bit of a misunderstanding sort of plot, and it follows the 3 of them as they explore their feelings for each other. This is kind of a reminiscent of Blue Flag, but with a more comedic angle to it. I believe the artist is the same artist as My Love Story. It's a really good series. It's only 9 volumes. I definitely recommend it if you're into romantic comedies, but shoujo romantic comedy specifically. Next up, we have Romantic Killer 3. This is a short 4-volume shonen series under the Shoujo Beat label, which doesn't make any sense, but it is full color, which is nice. It's basically a girl who gets everything taken away from her that she loves, like chocolate, her cat, and video games, and is told she has to basically find a boyfriend. So it's her going through the events of all these boys trying to get her interest, and this creature trying to basically manipulate events in her favor. This volume I enjoyed more than the second one, a little bit more than the first. It seems like they're not going to just completely change her character for her wanting a boy, which is good, but yeah, it's iffy if this is going to be enjoyed by most people. Lastly, from the Shonen Jump line, we have a Viz Sig called Boys Abyss. This is a very dark, kind of very trigger warning for suicide. It's got a lot of adult content in it. Definitely, I would say 18 plus, maybe 17 plus. It does show the top part of a woman uncensored, so be careful with that if that's not something you're interested in. It's basically about a boy and a girl who decide they're going to form a suicide pact together in this small town. It's good. I enjoy it. It is a bit ecchi, though, which I'm not a huge fan of. I feel like ecchi's only really good in some comedies and only some of the times. Next up, I'm going to be covering Happy Crappy Life, a first volume release by Haruda, the creator of Song of Yoru and Asa and Song of Yoru and Asa Encore. This is basically about 2 straight men who both have a penchant for backdoor times, but both swear that they're not gay. It's a very screwball kind of comedy. It does have a lot of essay in it, so if you're not into essay played for comedy, I would avoid this. If you can if you don't get affected by that or you can move past it, I'd say this is a very fun read. It's very silly. Of course, essay played for comedy is probably still not something we should still be doing in this day and age, but that's just my opinion. So if you're able to move past that, I think this is a good series to read. Very explicit though, 18 plus only. Next up, we are going to cover a single volume Square Enix. This is the first volume of Demons of the Shadow Realm, the new series by Hiromu Arakawa, the author of Fullmetal Alchemist. Basically about this boy who discovers that he has the power to work with these creatures called daemons. He is taken out of his village and is given these two daemons and is basically trying to uncover the mystery about his sister and what happened to her. It's very good so far. It's funny. It's got a lot of Arakawa's signature charm. I think the only downside, of course, is Arakawa does have a bit of a problem with characters looking similar to characters she's done in the past. I would say this looks kind of like Edward and Al combined from Fullmetal Alchemist. It's really good for how much there is of it so far. It's not that far along in Japan either, but I would definitely recommend it, especially if you like Fullmetal Alchemist, or if you like just supernatural stuff in general. Next up, I'm going to be covering Yen Press releases for this month that I read. First of all, Sunbeams in the Sky. This is a short 3-volume series. I read the first volume, basically about a set of twins. The kind of more standard twin goes to school in the place of the more upbeat, peppy twin and tries to replace her and kind of take her place while the other twin is going through a lot of troubles of her own. So I think this is really good. It does have some sad stuff that happens at the beginning of the first volume, but that kind of builds to the characters. For a 3-volume series, it's not much of a commitment, and I would definitely recommend it if you're interested in romantic comedy sort of things. Next up, we have Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, the first volume of the manga. This is a great series about a young girl who wants to become a sugar artisan, and she enlists the help of a fairy to do so. It's going through their dynamic with each other and going on her adventure of becoming an artisan. It's a lot of drama, and a lot of terrible people in it, but it's very, very good. I love the first season of the anime, and I really love the manga so far. Next up, we have the 7th volume of Miruko-chan. This is a series about a young girl who can see evil spirits, but chooses to ignore them so that they don't interact with her. I can't go into too many details about this volume without going into major spoilers for what happens in the series. All I can say is I really like the developments in this volume. I really like the new character introduced, very creepy character who plays an interesting role that hasn't been seen before in the series. Next up, we have a release from what I think should be the Ise Press line, but it started releasing before Ise Press was a thing. This is volume 3 of Why Raeliana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion. This is a series about a girl who ends up promising to marry a duke of a higher status than her current lover because she has been isekai'd into this novel where she knows that she's going to die by the hands of her partner unless she breaks off the engagement. So she essentially makes a pact with this duke to move in with him. This volume is exploring a lot more of their relationship dynamics with each other and budding feelings. It's romantic. It's got comedic elements. The anime is kind of iffy this season. I would definitely recommend reading the manhwa if you've enjoyed the anime somewhat. It's beautiful art, great characters. It has some political drama, not as much as Abandoned Empress, but I think it's a really good series. Definitely worth your time. Next up, we have Kowloon Generic Romance, Volume 3. This is a series set in the Kowloon city in China. It is about a young girl. I say young girl. She's a young adult who is exploring. Problem is, I can't explain too much of this without spoiling the events of the first volume, but it's basically about this girl exploring who she truly is and how she truly fits into the city of Kowloon. I can't. There's a lot more to it, but I don't want to spoil the first volume for anybody who hasn't read this. Definitely recommend this, though. It is a great series. The writer also did After the Rain, which was another. I've heard it's a good series. I haven't read it yet. But the events in this volume are really good. I liked it more and more from the second and third volume because the first volume introduced some interesting plot points that got expanded on, and then those got more confusing and building up a lot of mysteries. It's really good. The last release I have from Yen Press is Doomsday with My Dog, Volume 2. I believe this is a semi-4-coma series. It's full color about a young girl and her dog who are exploring the end of the world together. She can actually speak to her dog and other animals. It's a really good comedy. It does get a little serious at the very end of Volume 1, and it does have some sad moments in it. But I would definitely recommend this wholeheartedly. It's just goofy fun with a lot, like, the dog is very serious and over explains things to a point where he has knowledge that the dog really shouldn't have. It's really good. That's it for the Yen Press releases. I'm going to now move on to the Kodansha releases. First of all, Go-Go Loser Ranger, Volume 4. This is by Negi Haruba, the creator of Quintessential Quintuplets. This is about I don't remember the exact term, but basically a mob villain from the evil organization trying to impersonate one of the Rangers. So it's kind of like that superhero series, that superhero type of thing, like Power Rangers. I don't remember the exact term for what that genre is. Sentai. It's like a Super Sentai, but kind of a darker look on it, where the Rangers have more of a darker element to them, and you don't really know who to root for or what is going to happen. With this volume, it's covering this exam that the mob villain that is trying to impersonate one of these ranger trainees is going through in order to advance in the ranks of becoming a ranger, or becoming somebody who is building up to a ranger, I should say. I'm not a huge fan of this series. It's mostly my partner's series. I'm reading it out of curiosity. It was good at first, but it's really hard to follow a lot of the action, a lot of the plot. I don't know, it's just not very well formatted or paced for me. I'm still going to read it because I still want to see what happens, though. But I wouldn't, strongly recommend it. If you like Power Rangers and other Super Sentai, I would say give it a shot. But yeah, next up we have the long-awaited first volume of Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun. This is a really fun series about a young boy who is basically sold off by his parents to a demon, and it turns out the demon really just wanted a grandson, so he spoils this boy a lot. This is the first volume is basically him getting introduced to the school life of this demon school he's enrolled in, and making new friends and exploring what the demon world is exactly. It's a great comedy with a lot of very wholesome elements to it. Not really any weird fan service so far. I believe the anime's at 3 seasons now, and the manga is really good so far. I'm very much looking forward to the next volume. Next up, we have Rent a Girlfriend, Volume 18. I believe this is the first volume that kind of wraps up after the end of the movie arc in the series. I've heard the movie arc is the best part of this series, so I'm not sure where it's going to go from here. Of course, I enjoyed this volume. We do have a lot of my favorite character, Sumi, here. But it's a very controversial series. A lot of people aren't really that much into it, but I'm still enjoying it so far, at least. Next up, we have Shonen Note 3. This is a fantastic series, in my opinion. The author's great with expressing emotions and words through these beautiful, splashes of imagery. It's about a young boy who is learning his talents for chorus and learning his talents for singing and joining an opera and a chorus and exploring his true feelings about himself. In this volume, he's definitely questioning himself a lot because of something somebody else said to him. So he's exploring what he really is and how to really express himself in his singing. This is a great series. I 100% recommend it to pretty much anybody. The last release from Kodansha this month was Wisteria Wand and Sword 3. I believe this is written by the creator of Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, which I watched the anime for a while but dropped it because it seemed like it wasn't really kind of wrapping up or anything anytime soon. and I lost interest in it. But this series is basically exploring a young boy who is enrolling in this magic school, even though he mostly has not a lot of magic talent, because he wants to. I don't remember his exact reason for it, but he basically had a childhood friend who was a prodigy and is one of the strongest wizards in the world, and he wants to see her again. So I believe that's why he's trying to go through and become one of the strongest. I think it's Magus something. Basically, he's trying to meet his childhood friend again. So he's going through this schooling. Even though he doesn't have magic, he is trying to make up for it with learning how to use the sword and exploring the dungeons. I think this is really good. The art's fantastic for an artist I don't really know anything about. I'd recommend this. This volume kind of goes into the end of the Grand Magic Festival. There was a lot of really fun fight scenes in this, and I'm enjoying it a lot so far. So that is the end of the ongoing series that I read this month, that released this month. Now I'm going to be going over the Legacy series that I read this month, mostly the stuff that I binged. Firstly, I have volumes 8 through 10 of High Score Girl. This is wrapping up the series, which is basically a young boy and a young girl who both love arcade games for different reasons, and exploring what it means to have feelings for each other while also building up a very strong rivalry between the two of them. The girl doesn't say anything throughout the entire series, I don't think, maybe say for a couple words here and there. I liked it a lot. I think the only thing I don't like a lot is the art style. I know I think the artist can draw much more realistic people, but this is their art style they choose to go with. I'm not a fan of it, but I feel like there's probably some people that are. I don't want to put them off of it just because of that. I think it's a good series, really good for people who love fighting games. Next up, we have My Hero Academia Smash, Volumes 1 through 4. This is a 4-coma gag series set in the universe of My Hero Academia. Not a lot of details about this. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's got a lot of really fun, silly gags, but it's also got a lot of gross, pervy jokes and some transphobia in the second to last volume, which I really was not a fan of. Not a lot of homophobia, though, which is, I guess that's good. But the gags are hit or miss. I don't like the problematic gags. I think this series released way too recently for those to still be a thing, and it's kind of frustrating they're still a thing, to be honest. But if you like My Hero Academia and you don't want something that takes itself too seriously and you can look past those, it's a good read. Next up, I read the first 2 volumes of Tokyo Boys and Girls by Miki Aihara, the creator of Hot Gimmick and Honey Hunt. This is a series about a young girl who enrolls in an academy because she really loves the uniforms of the academy. It's exploring her school life and her developing relationships along the way. It's nothing too serious. It's not as drama-filled as Honey Hunt or Hot Gimmick. I think there's some parts where, certain scenes where you can kind of tell this is by that same person. This is probably my favorite of her series so far. It's got a lot less of the over-the-top drama and a lot more down-to-earth high school drama. The art style is super different than any of your other works, and I would definitely recommend it if you even liked Honey Hunt or Hot Gimmick a bit. It's basically those without all the stupid drama, because there's a lot of stupid drama in Hot Gimmick and some in Honey Hunt, and less in this one. I would recommend this one over those other 2 personally. Next, I read volumes 2 through 6 of Absolute Boyfriend by Yu Watase. This is a series about a young girl who is rejected by her current crush very harshly, and in a very foolish move decides to order a figure online, which turns out to be sort of a robot that, once she kisses, is hers and is fully committed to her. And it's exploring if she wants to continue relationships with that person / figure, or if she wants to develop relationships with other people. I'm I think this is a great series. The ending's a little iffy in my opinion. I haven't read any of Watase's other works in full, but this has inspired me to get a lot of her other series, as you can see in my previous haul video. Um, I think this is good. It's just the ending was kind of iffy to me. Next up, we have a Our Dreams at Dusk by um, Yuki Kamitani, who is the author of Shonen Note. This is a fantastic coming-of-age LGBT story about a boy discovering his sexuality and how that is going to play into a factor in his life. This is I think, Own Words is the name of the genre, where it's basically a person who is writing from their own experiences. Essentially, a gay person writing about gay people, that sort of thing. Own Voices, that's what I'm looking for. This is a great series, but it does have some very triggering things in it that were addressed respectfully, but I think the F slurs used in here. There's a lot of homophobia, a lot of transphobia, a lot of subtle homophobia and transphobia, but I think this is a great series, especially if you're someone who has experienced that or knows what it's like to go through it. It really enhances a lot of the plot beats in this series, and like I mentioned before, the author is fantastic with visual flourishes. I would recommend this wholeheartedly if you're able to stomach that sort of language and that sort of plot point in a story. If not, Shonen Note I don't think has that so far, so I'd recommend that one instead. Next up, I have Orange 1, 2, and Future. This is a series about a group of friends where they find that one of their friends is going to end up committing suicide. So 10 years from the events of this book, they write letters and send them back to themselves in the past to try and help prevent that friend from committing suicide so that he can still be with them 10 years later. This, I believe, is a seinen/shoujo series. It's a little bit of a slow start. The main character in the first few chapters is a little bit dense, which I'm not a huge fan of, but other than that, I think this is a great read. It's got interesting sci-fi elements mixed with a lot of the traditional school themes and developing relationships among these group of friends. I think this is probably worth a lot of people's time. It's a good, relatively short series. It does tackle mental illness or a mental health crisis in a way. I think it handles it pretty respectfully. They're not blaming him for how he feels. They're trying to help him move past his feelings in any way they possibly can by being a good support network for him. I would recommend this series, though. But with that, I believe that's all of the series that I read in April. So thank you so much for watching and leaving feedback in the comments. Talk to you next time.